evening, Leroy. Welcome to From the Pressbox.
Hello.
How are
How
you?
are you? I'm all right. I'm all right. Yourself?
Jinx. Yeah, no, doing well. I'm sorry. I'm in the process right now of we've been doing here at work a contest in predicting the Kentucky playoff in basketball, and a game just went final, so I had to update our stat sheet. I'm losing by 1 right now, so it's not good. Although I dumbly we had this contest and we tied, and the tiebreaker when we first calculated it, we had 2 people go over, me and the guy I tied with, so we felt like Price is Right rules, let's just roll it over. At second glance, I won. I got under it by like 3, but still by that point we'd already agreed to move on. So I'm like, this sucks. But yeah, so it's
Hey,
now I'm not distracted anymore.
I'm excited, man. Northwestern's making the tournament for the second time in a row. First time in school history that they've made the tournament 2 years in a row. Only 84 more years to go, and we can catch up to you guys. Only 84 more years to go.
Yeah, no, it feels something like that. And then I do have to say, what do you think of my new hat?
The Joey Votto Blue Jays hat. You fully jumped on board with.
Oh, I bought it immediately. Without question. It was delivered here on Monday that I had to buy my Joey Votto Blue Jays hat. So to our fellow Canadians, to our Canadians that watch.
To you.
Oh, Canada, right? I don't know what they say up there.
Do you even know the Canadian national anthem?
Oh, Canada. Da, ba, 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 ba. Right. Do you know the second verse?
Oh, Canada, my home and native land, true patriot sons, true patriot love.
Here's the thing. You could just be. Wait, let me pull up these lyrics
because we see thee rise. Da 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 da.
Okay, go for it. Okay.
Oh,
Canada,
my home and native land.
Our home and native land, but yeah, you're close. Okay.
True patriot love in all thy sons command.
Yeah.
With glowing hearts we see thee rise. Da 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 da.
The true North, strong and free.
The true North, strong and free.
You never really know what we're going to get on the pod. I don't think anybody on their bingo card had Leroy sings Oh Canada to start before it. Because as John says, free agency in the NFL, we got to talk about that. The NFL, too, I want to bring this up to you, Leroy, has a couple of proposed rule changes that teams have put forth. I don't know if you've seen these yet, but a couple of them are interesting.
It was literally on my list of things to talk about tonight. So, yeah.
Great minds think alike there. I assume you have tidbits or something, or maybe not.
Yep.
And logos, NCAA tournament, we can at least touch on that. Although that's really next week. That'll be like the
but a lot of the conference tournaments started today.
Well, I mean, they've been going on. That's all. I love, and I mean, you know me, I love college basketball. But there's nothing I love more than the like I was watching the Southland Conference Championship earlier today. McNeese State and it was Norfolk State. I
watched a little bit. We'll talk about it later, but I watched a little bit of the Indiana State Drake game.
Oh, it's a great game. It's a great game. I love the small conferences because I think it almost like when whoever wins the Big Ten, like they'll be like, yay, like we won the Big Ten. Like, okay. Yeah. But for those small schools, it's so cool when they get the chance to win.
I know
it just means a little bit more to them.
Oh, I know it.
And like if Western wins Conference USA, that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Because they have been to the tournament in a while. There have been a lot of teams. Like, I mean, this year you had Stetson that is making the tournament for the first time ever. McNeese State, I think, first time since 2000 or something. So it's interesting. I always love those stories. But yes, as John said, I think we got to start with free agency, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, every year I feel like I say this has been the biggest year for movers and shakers, but yet again, another big year where a lot of guys moved, and there was a lot of weird, interesting positions. I know John and I were talking in our chat about a little bit about some of the like running backs, and I think what we say, John, safeties. I think there was a lot of safeties that were like moving around and things like that as well. So, but the running back market has been ridiculous. A lot of guys moving, and we go back to that running back Zoom session that they had, where all the running backs got on and said, we need to stick together and fight for more and all this stuff. And every single one of those guys, except for like one,
yeah, I mean,
team.
To put things into perspective, Saquon 3 for 38, Josh Jacobs 4 for 48, Derrick Henry 2 for 16, Tony Pollard 3 for 24, DeAndre Swift 3 for 24. Which
let's go.
I know that one. That was like, was that the first move?
First or second?
Yeah, it was very early on. Which was, if I would have had DeAndre Swift to the Bears, would not have been my first pick. As far as predicting what would have happened first. Devin Singletary goes to the Giants, Gus Edwards to the Chargers, Antonio Gibson to the Patriots, and Zach Moss goes to the Bengals, and then the Bengals turn around and trade Joe Mixon to the Texans after the previous night.
How you doing? You doing all right?
I've been on team cut Joe Mixon for the past 16 months, so I am perfectly fine. I've been almost the president of the Cut Joe Mixon Club. And that's nothing against Joe Mixon. I mean, he seems like he's a good enough guy, but it's just time. As you know, there comes a time. There comes a time.
Yeah. I hear you guys are going to get Justin Fields as your backup for
Yeah, we did have a post in our Who Dey Nation Facebook group earlier today that said, but what's funny, Leroy, is about whenever Justin Fields was coming out.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot of Bengals fans, there is a good portion of the Bengals fan base that is also Buckeye fans, Ohio State. And I always like to say is Buckeye fans, almost more than any other every fan base is guilty of this, but almost Ohio State fans are even more so than any other fan base. They have what I call their Buckeye blinders, meaning that they don't care. They just see Buckeye, that's all that matters. And we had a post in our group that said, we should draft Justin Fields in the first round with Joe, and then put him in the backfield with Joe Burrow and run a 2-quarterback set. The NFL will never know what's hitting them. We're like, and the thing is this guy was not like, trying to like, no, he was dead serious. And when he got roasted, people were, he had no idea as to why. He couldn't wrap his brain around as to why. But so yes, there was a post today that said that the Bengals should, for one, they said that they should sign Justin Fields to a contract, which is interesting because there is something, that Justin Fields is not a free agent.
Yeah.
Nor will he be, at least for another year or two. But it's people are stupid when it comes to it. But there have been a ton of moves in free agency. And I mean, I've liked it. Like, I
know we talked about DeAndre Swift a little bit, but any of those other moves kind of surprised you, or kind of was like, why?
I don't know. I mean, like, I can go with the Bengals. They signed Zach Moss, Mike Gesicki. They get the tight end, which is good. A 6'6" guy that'll fit really well. Just about 2 hours ago, they signed Sheldon Rankins, but the one that excites me the most is they get Geno Stone, who is a safety from the Ravens. That is good. John brings up Flacco as a Colts backup is weird. And I do agree. I think that there's, I mean, the Flacco deal, and John, I can look it up here too. I think it was like 1 year, $8 million. Yeah, 1 year, $8.7 million. That's a chunk of change for a almost 40-year-old backup. And to me, that says that the Colts really are either, I think, one of two things. They're not sold on Anthony Richardson, or two, that injury is not recovering the way they think it should. That's the only reason you're paying a backup quarterback almost $9 million.
The thing is even if they think AR is healthy, there's still the risk there. Listen, we all know how dangerous AR can be when he's healthy, but you've already had your rookie year where you missed a good portion of it. That's not saying it's going to happen again. Look, this is the NFL. Any guy can get injured, but it's one of those things where now you have to kind of watch it, right? Now you have to kind of sit there and go, okay, we really have to be prepared in case there's more issues with that knee, or more issues where, he is having issues and we have to get somebody in there. And with the Colts being so close to being to that point, having somebody there that's already good and already established, that's huge. So I get it as far as getting that veteran quarterback and getting that need filled.
John brings up a good point. Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles. Which is just interesting. Like, we had a lot of those cross division, like, because I mean, for fan bases, we're like, why would you do that? But these guys don't care. I mean, Aaron Jones goes from the Packers to the Vikings, right?
Yeah.
You have Geno Stone going from the Ravens to the Bengals. You have Patrick Queen going from the Ravens to the Steelers. I love those like cross division because they don't care. Like these guys are just all about making money. They know one another. The rivalries aren't necessarily a thing to them.
Well, it's like I talked about Eberflus
yeah.
and freaking Green Bay's coach hanging out.
LaFleur.
Yeah, LaFleur.
I mean, like,
out.
not that the Packers
friends, man.
Not that the Packers and the Bengals are rivals in the least, but like I think LaFleur was in Zach Taylor's wedding. Like, it's part of it. Michael Thomas was cut by the Saints. That was an interesting one as well. I'm trying to look. I mean, the Texans have been very active. You know, they get Joe Mixon, Donnell Hunter. They signed like Jeff Okudah, Mike Ford. They've been very, very aggressive in trying to make this.
Chicago got Patrick Scales, Jonathan Owens. Owens, of course, husband to Simone Biles.
Knew that name sounded extra familiar.
Kevin Byard as a safety. Gerald Everett, tight end. And then Matt Pryor, offensive tackle. Quarterback Brett Ripien, which sent all kinds of waves through Twitter this afternoon. Oh, what are they doing?
UCLA, I believe.
Re-signed to Jalen Johnson, and then, of course, DeAndre Swift, as we talked about.
John asks me my opinion on the T. Higgins trade request. It's nothing. Like, it means nothing. Because here's the thing, and I always find this funny, is it's like, okay, the Bengals have a price range, and the tag that they have in, as far as I'm saying that, like the price tag that they have in the picks that we need to get is higher than any team is going to pay. So what they're going to tell T. Higgins is say, hey, you're either going to come play and make $22 million, or you're going to sit on your couch and make zero money. And in the history of the NFL, there's only been one player that has decided to not take the money and play for $0 and sit on his couch, and that's Le'Veon Bell.
Well, I thought that was called Kaepernick.
Well, he wasn't tagged. He wasn't tagged, but still, it's one of those things that the Bengals are going to call his bluff. They're not like, it's a business.
Yeah,
it's a business, and when it happened, Mike Brown, the Bengals owner, is as stubborn as it gets.
That's true.
He's not going to budge. Like, if anything else, this like will make him want to keep him more and be like, what's that? You don't think that I'll do that? Just crack the knuckles here, and we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. But yeah, so I read nothing into the T. Higgins trade request because a team is going to have to blow the Bengals away with a top 40 pick to get them, and I don't think a team is going to do that, and I don't know that a team should do that. In all seriousness.
Titans had Ridley today for $92 million.
Yeah, the Titans have been very active as well. I mean, they get Tony Pollard as well. They add a center and Lloyd Cushenberry. They get Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
Chidobe Awuzie from the Bengals. That one was interesting that Cheeto got paid as much as he did. They even signed a long snapper. Morgan Cox. But yeah, I think the Calvin Ridley to the Titans deal was surprising. But I think in tying into the T. Higgins thing is that was one of the teams that, since Brian Callahan, former Bengals offensive coordinator, is now the head coach of Tennessee, that Bengals fans were always like, ooh, he might want to bring T. Higgins with him. T. Higgins is from Tennessee and so on. That could be the trade. But now I think that you have Calvin Ridley. You're not going to do that. The problem is the Titans got a RB2 and a wide receiver 2 to play 1-1. I think Calvin Ridley can be a 1, and Tony Pollard along with Spears. I think we're getting closer and closer, Leroy, to the days where RB1 and RB2, you're just RB.
Yeah.
Well,
and a lot of teams have just completely gone with dual systems where they try them out. And they don't really have a preference, right? It used to be in the old days, and I'm probably dating myself when I say this, but where you had a halfback, a fullback, and a running back, and really, it's not really a thing anymore. Fullbacks don't really have a place in the NFL anymore, and running backs where you had a guy who was power that would push in at the when you were in the red zone or at the goal line, as opposed to having a guy who was flashy and pizzazz and could get a whole lot of yardage. Really not that much anymore. It's still there, but really those lines are really starting to meld a whole lot more between just big guys, even at running back, where, in the old days, running back might be the same size as the kicker, just small, nimble, and could move really, really well. Now they're getting bigger and bigger. So it's interesting to see the direction that everything's going as far as those kind of melding together.
I do want to say too, just off topic for 10 seconds. We have one like on our video right now, Leroy, and it's Dan, and he can't even drop in and leave a comment. Like, what a jerk. He hasn't he hasn't watched in like a week, in like a month.
He's been watching it the next day, I think. He's been watching it the next day, but he's still reeling from Queen leaving and going to the Steelers. So,
and probably Geno Stone, because
Yeah.
I loved it. There was a video, and I should send it to you after the show, Leroy, of a Ravens fan. He was doing a live stream, and it went during of his live reactions to free agency, and he gets like a tweet. He says, "We just lost Geno Stone to who? The Bengals." And then he just screams bloody murder into his microphone. And
they got Derrick Henry though, right? They got Derrick Henry.
They did trade the Queen for the King. I'm interested to see how that works, because Derrick Henry is getting up there in age. I don't know. That is either going to be one of those moves that puts the Ravens over the top, or you look back and say, if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Just like it's just not going to work. I'll tell you another team that's really stood out to me, and Leroy, if you want me to take you off screen while I say this, of playing really well or making some good moves, was the Packers. They signed Josh Jacobs, 4 years, $48 million. The Xavier McKinney deal was the one that really stood out to me the most. 4-year deal worth $68 million, 25 in year one. They keep Keyshawn Nixon. Those are a couple of moves there.
We haven't seen the Packers be too active in free agency over the last 3 to 5 years. They've really relied on a lot of draft help. They've really relied on a lot of just, kind of, and if they have, it's been, non-important positions. And I say that tongue in cheek, because every position is important, but no real flashy moves during free agency. This is the first year. And I've talked to a couple of my friends who are Packer fans, and even they said, look, this is the first year in a while where they have been extra active at the free agency line. They have been extra active and aggressive towards being able to make moves. So it'll be interesting to see if those moves pay off for them. It'll be interesting to see if Jordan Love can find his mojo for his sophomore year. We've seen before where some quarterbacks struggle in their sophomore year once teams start to figure out their plan and once teams start to really understand, how they work and what they do. So I'm excited to see them fall apart and suffer. So,
Paul, there you are, Paul. I mean, you're 19 minutes late. My goodness. Welcome in, though. You've missed all of our. I mean, listen, what are you going to do without knowing all of your NFL free agent opinions from us?
Yeah, man. Missing out.
Maybe the biggest news of the entire free agency signing. It was kind of like the worst kept secret. In fact, there's two of them. John just brought up the other one. We can start with John's. Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh. I was just like, oh, you go from Kenny Pickett to Russell Wilson? Okay.
The Steelers fans have got to be losing their mind right now, man.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine with me. Whatever you say.
Are they steel riding? Ayo. Now don't mute me. That was completely worth it. Stop. Don't even look at me like that. Yes. Yes, that's okay. I like that. That's good. That's good.
if I had a cricket sound effect, I would have played that. Forrest, in all seriousness, how do you feel about Russell Wilson? Like you're because I mean he's a Steeler fan in here. For me, it's never a good sign when your rival is happy that that's who you picked up. Like, in all seriousness, I mean, if you were happy that the Packers picked up a quarterback, that's not a good sign at all.
Yeah.
Just like if you sign Caleb Williams and your Packers fan is like, "Oh, that's such a great move," you're probably going to be like, "Oh, something's not right there." He's an upgrade over Kenny. Well, that's not saying much. That's not saying much.
We all know Mitch Trubisky went to Buffalo to go reunite his career. All right, let's be real here.
Yes, back to Buffalo too. Wasn't he there at the time? I don't know. Then the other big news: Kirk Cousins goes to the Falcons, which to me is, I mean, a 4-year, $180 million contract, $50 million signing bonus, $100 million guaranteed, $90 million in the next 2 years, and another 10 in 26.
Hey, the good news is there's a Kohl's like 3.2 miles away, so he's set and ready to go, man.
I don't know. Yeah, and then they get Darnell Mooney to pair with him. Like Kirk Cousins coming off an ACL. I mean, how old? I mean, he's in his mid to late 30s, isn't he?
Yeah, but somebody posted his pay like
yeah,
his
he's 35. He'll be 36 in August.
Somebody posted his contracts, and the dude is making so much money, and he has like 3 playoff wins in 12 years. And he's making like a ton of money. Yeah, right there. $400 million in his career. He's got like three playoff wins. That's it.
And that's where I'm like, is, you know, you had some Falcons fans that it's like, hey, is that really what's going to take you to the next level? But the Falcons are in this weird period. And honestly, I think it's very similar to what the Steelers were a couple of years ago, where they needed a quarterback, but they drafted too low to really get one and too low to trade up.
Yeah, but it felt like they didn't utilize the weapons that they had last year. Drake London was non-existent. I mean, Bijan was non-existent. I mean, there were quite a few weapons that the Falcons had that didn't do a thing last year.
Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has never been anything.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, he's never done anything, and he was a top 5 pick.
It's like, you know, like we have all these weapons, let's not use them. And you sit there and you wonder, dude, fantasy people were ticked. Ain't that right, John? Ain't that right? Fantasy were pretty pissed about the Falcons and not using their weapons.
Yeah, and see, Arthur Smith deserves a lot of the blame. And where did Arthur Smith end up? As the Pittsburgh offensive coordinator. I know I had a friend who's a Falcons fan, and he was laughing hysterically because his wife is a Bengals fan. So he was like, hey, I get a happy wife now because the Steelers, that's not going to work with it. The one thing that has been interesting to me is how slow the offensive tackle market has gone, and also the wide receiver market.
Yeah.
Because, and I think a lot of that goes with is that how deep the class is coming up in the draft at offensive tackle and at wide receiver. I mean, you've got some top level guys, you know, your Marvin Harrisons, your Rome Odunzes, you know, you've got the guy, Malik Neighbors and so on.
Yeah.
And then at offensive tackle, you got JC Latham, you've got Mims from Georgia, you've got Olu Fashuna, Joe Alt, and so on. It is just interesting as to it's been a little bit slower. And I think, like John said here, it's a lot due to what the draft is.
Well, especially because you know you can go get a viable option for way cheaper in the draft. I'm going to absolutely take that route, cut my lot, you know, see what I can get in the draft, and then if I can't get a good, you know, pick in the draft, then I'll go back to the free agency market and be like, all right, guys, we didn't get what we wanted. Let's see what's available out here.
Well, in fact, it's looking like I might. Oh my, we have breaking news. Breaking news right now. The Bengals have re-signed, or technically not re-signed, but they're bringing back Von Bell.
Oh.
Von Bell is coming back to the Bengals. He was with Carolina for a year, so they've added another depth safety to that safety room. So there you go. Some breaking news there on the podcast. I wish I had like a breaking news sounder or something.
There you go. That's pretty good.
Was it?
You know what? You've been kind of a jerk tonight. Man.
Have I? I don't think I have been. I think we've had great conversation. Paul says, what do you think about this? I traded A.J. Brown and pick number 10 for C.D. Lamb earlier today. I've never done, and Mick and I were having this conversation, Leroy, the other day. I've never done a Dynasty Fantasy League to know the strategy.
Yeah.
And he's in one this year. And he was asking me, and I was like, listen, I'm no help because I don't know the valuation and so on.
I'm really bad at it. And I can't say it too loud because, like, I'm in a league with John. But, yeah, I'm not very good at it.
Is it a Dynasty League?
Yeah.
To where you, like, keep players and all that?
Yeah, a keeper. We have 6 keepers. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's so hard. Losing pick 10, I agree with John, is a tough loss, Paul. That's a tough loss. I don't know. It could be interesting. The NFL, though, did have some rule proposals that came out. I've got them up here as well.
Okay.
Number 1, from the Detroit Lions, it is to protect a club's ability to challenge a third ruling following one successful challenge. So, because usually, if you win your first, you get your second. So they're saying that if you win your first 2, you should get your third. I'm fine with that.
That's because the Lions were really, really good at challenges last year.
Yeah.
The Lions Hampton was like really good with those last year, man.
Who?
Or not Hampton.
Campbell?
Yeah, sorry.
It's like, wait a second, who? Yes or no?
Yeah.
You would vote yes? See, it's funny. All of these votes, when they come through, it'll go down and it'll be like 31-1. And the one team every single year is the Bengals. They always vote against, like, it's hilarious. And there was one a couple of years ago. Well, see, he doesn't do it anymore. It's his daughter. But she's, like, just kept up with. And there was one a couple of years ago where it was like 30-2, and they were not one of the 2. And everyone was like, whoa, what's happening? I couldn't even tell you what it was. Philadelphia Eagles propose to eliminate the first touch spot after the receiving team possesses the ball. I'll be honest, Leroy, I don't know that I particularly know what that means.
Yeah, so the Eagles actually put through a couple things.
Yes, there's one more coming after this that I'll bring up.
Yeah, but
the next one, I think, is one that has more of a discussion.
Say that one again for the Eagles.
To eliminate the first touch spot after the receiving team possesses the ball.
Okay, move on to the next one. I'm just skipping it.
The Eagles to permit a team to maintain possession of the ball after a score by substituting one offensive play, 4th and 20, from the kicking team's 20-yard line for an onside kickoff attempt.
Right. Yep.
And this has been something that has been an XFL, right? Or a UFL or UTRFL.
did something very similar, but it was a little bit different. But yeah. So the NFL in 2023, teams recovered 2 of 41 onside kicks. So they're trying to get rid of it. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like it takes away that little element of there's always that last chance,
Would you be fine with changing it to the 4th down and 20 though? Instead of an onside kick?
Yeah, I think I would. And again, I'm split because I'm a purist, so I like the onside kick rule. But again, 4th and 20 gives you about the same odds, if anything, a little bit higher as far as being able to get it. You get the Green Bay Packers would probably go for it every single time for 4th and 20.
Well, see, it's so interesting because it does give a benefit to those teams that can pass the ball at a high level.
Yeah.
Whereas you have teams like the Bears, who are probably not a pass-first team.
Yep.
Who it doesn't benefit them at all. So what I'm interested in is with this is I'm hoping that you theoretically still have the ability to onside kick it. And I would assume that the answer is yes. But even as John says, like you'd have players like or coaches like Dan Campbell who would do it a lot
every single time. Yeah.
And then you'd have teams like Paul says here, like Carolina, who would really, really struggle at it. So I think you'd really want to have the ability to still be able to kick the onside kick, because I also, and they can't really stop you from doing the old onside kick when no one is expecting it.
Right. Where
think of Sean Payton in the Super Bowl.
You have to kick it a certain amount of distance to be able to count.
But I mean, there's been also the talk too about should they just get rid of kickoffs in general?
Oh, I know.
That was kind of a question as well to you. Should they?
No. That's the dumbest thing ever. Look, the kickoff is an integral part of football. What the reason we're trying to get rid of is what? Injuries, right? I'd like to see a study of how many injuries come.
Well, I think the stat is that like last year, 85% of kickoffs went through the back of the end zone.
Yeah, because of Devin Hester, they moved them all forward so that teams wouldn't return them. I didn't like the move forward in the first place.
For me, that is the example of if they made that move, I would not have an opinion on. You know what I mean? Like
you'd be fine either way.
I'm also saying this because the Bengals in my lifetime have had really one player that could ever return kicks. I've always wanted as their special teams coordinator every single year. He's been the special teams coordinator pretty much my entire life since like 2001. Every single year, he always says, my goal is to find a returner that puts the fear of God into the other team. And we've never really had that. So that's part of the reason as to what it is. And Forrest says to make them kick from the 20.
Move them back to the 20-yard line, have them kick from there. Because I'm telling you, I'm and see, maybe I was spoiled with Devin Hester. Maybe I was spoiled. But at the same time, I just feel like there's always that thrill of, oh my gosh, they might return it. They might return the kick, which we haven't had in forever. But to completely get rid of it, I don't know. The purist to me hates it.
You're a purist? Never knew that. Let's just put flag posts back in front of the end zone too while we're at it. You know what? Maybe we could do something. The field goal post, yeah.
It's funny watching the old 1950s, 1960s
videos
on YouTube.
Isn't Canadian football that way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Cedric Pierman, he was great as a special teams guy. And, they had Brandon Wilson, who was a good returner. Then they had guys like Brandon Tate, who I despised. I always love it. Every fan has that one guy that, it doesn't matter what they could do, you're always going to dislike them. Brandon Tate was that for me for the Bengals. And the day that they cut him, because remember that the Bengals had a stretch where they kept signing him to one-year deals, and finally they didn't. And I was so happy. I could probably go back through my phone and find the message I sent to Mick. Finally, Brandon Tate is gone.
Bakhtiari got cut from the Green Bay Packers. He's my favorite Packer player. All right. He's my absolute favorite Green Bay Packer player. So my question to you is, who has been your favorite Steeler player? And you have to say somebody. Don't even start with me.
No, there's not an answer. There's not an answer. There's not an answer. Listen, you know me. Benny Snell was one of my favorite UK players. The minute he went to that team, he was dead to me. Dead to me. Dead to me. I didn't want anything good to happen to him anymore. Now I hope he's okay. But no, absolutely not. Dead to me. Every single one of them. Dead to me. Dead to me. And I'm not ashamed by that at all.
You're
not even a little bit.
You're such a 12-year-old.
I just say that I only state facts, that I'm dead to me. The other one was by the is it the Indianapolis? Is it Colts? Is that their Colts? Is that their nickname? Colts?
Yeah. Right. Indianapolis Browns, right?
Something like that.
Titans.
Yes, you're right. Or is it Jaguars?
Oh, that's a good one.
Texans? Indianapolis Texans? I don't know. Their nickname doesn't particularly matter.
Yeah.
When it comes to it, they have a rule proposal to permit a coach or replay official inside of 2 minutes to challenge any foul that has been called. So this would be penalties. They did this, and they had the 1 year where you could challenge pass interference, and I don't know that it ever got overturned.
That was a nightmare.
For me,
it felt like they reviewed every single play, man.
We have talked about this, Leroy. And if I were in charge of replay, what I would do is I would put a timer on it.
Yeah.
Whether it's 1 minute, 30 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever it might be. And I think 1 minute is the perfect amount of time. And then if it's less than 2 minutes or it's in the playoffs, you can take that off because the stakes are higher. And if after 1 minute you can't overturn the play stands, we move on. Because there have been so many times, like watching these mid-major conference tournaments, there was one the other night, and it was a big call, but it was one of those that was fairly obvious, and I don't remember which one it was. And I'm not joking you, it was 5 minutes. They spent 5 minutes looking at this play, and even the announcers were like, okay.
If it takes you this long.
Play stands, let's move on.
Yeah.
Play stands, let's move on. But I mean, like John says, and he's right here, Lions could have challenged the eligible receiver call in that Dallas game.
Oh, the Super Bowl. The very end, the very last play of the Chiefs, where the Chiefs got the ball down in the end there. They had supposedly they had the ineligible receiver down in the end zone.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the holding call against Logan Wilson.
No.
That was not holding, but I'm not going to go there. Not going to go there. But would you like this inside of 2 minutes to have the ability to challenge a penalty?
No.
Is that because you don't think that the referees would actually overturn themselves? Or do you just not like having more replay?
Probably more replay overall. I'm just not a big fan of stopping. Yes, I agree that the refs should get the call right, but let's be real here. It doesn't happen. I would venture to say that I would like to see a stat of replays and how many plays are actually overturned from how many challenges are actually like reversed, right? And how many times the play is reversed, because I don't know. I feel like we're adding more and more time to this. The NFL has been big about trying to speed up the game a little bit, but John's got a good point. Lose it down, give up yardage if you have a failed challenge. All they lose right now is a timeout, which, again, timeouts are kind of a big deal. But when you have a situation where they can automatically review it, you end up in situations where the last 2 minutes can be 25 minutes long.
I've always thought in baseball, to me, baseball is the epitome of 30-second timer, or a minute timer, because usually, if we're being honest, in baseball, you can tell right away.
Yep.
You can slow it down. You can tell right away. And sometimes in baseball, it takes forever. But I've always thought is, right now the penalty is that you lose your challenge for the rest of the game.
One thing I like that baseball has done is started to say what.
Announce it. Yes, love that with the umpires.
It used to be where they just come out, they'd be like
out.
And you're like,
yes. Explain to me. Well, even in college basketball now, they've mic'd up the officials, so it's really funny. They stand there. We're looking at the time. So it's always, because sometimes they go to the monitor and it's like, I've got not a clue what they're looking at. But in baseball, I've always wondered should there be a rule, instead of just losing the challenge, should you lose an out? If you're wrong,
teams would throw a fit.
Or you, so if there's 2 outs and you lose a challenge, but you're on defense and it goes down to 1 out. Or, if you're on offense and it goes up to 3 or something and the inning's over. I don't know. I've just always found, I don't think it would ever happen. But it's interesting along it. But I love all the rule changes. And, I don't know that. I think you could see the challenge rule go through, but I don't think you're going to be seeing any of these other ones. I don't think that onside rule will go through.
Yeah. Is that the only rule changes that you have?
Those were the 4 big ones.
All right. So the other ones that are on here, Buffalo Bills want the NFL to allow practice squad quarterbacks to be eligible to serve as the emergency third quarterback on game days. So they would have an emergency third quarterback. Pittsburgh Steelers proposed moving the trade deadline back a week to after week 9 games in a completely separate proposal. 6 other teams suggested moving back until after week 10 games. So they're trying to get that trade deadline pushed back a little bit. Eagles hope to see game clocks display tenths of a second in the final minute of each half.
Interesting. I don't know that really has that much. See, like some of these rule changes, like that one, like how often does that have an impact on a game?
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily does, but I'm surprised that
I do agree with the trade deadline being pushed back.
I'm surprised the tush push didn't get talked about more in the rule changes.
Well, I guess since Jason Kelce's retired, there's no reason to. But in all seriousness, there's been a lot of talk that it was more on him because he was so strong in his lower legs. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe teams are like, well, we'll give it one more year and see how much it was literally just him and his success when it comes to that. That's a lot of the NFL news because we've spent a lot of time on that, but obviously we should have because there's a ton of information coming out. Do you have tidbits or do you want to jump into everyone's favorite segment?
I have short tidbits today. Caitlin Clark TV effect. So all of the races on Sunday saw less people watching. The reason being is that Caitlin Clark was playing in the Big Ten Conference Championship at the same time against Ohio State and had way more people watching that.
I watched overtime.
Which is interesting just because of the dynamic. Just thought it was kind of interesting that happened. Padres are finalizing a deal for Dylan Cease. We talked a little bit, but I'd like to talk about it a little bit. Well, hold on a second to that. Salt Lake City, Houston, and Atlanta have all made proposals for having an NHL team. Atlanta, of course, has failed already. Salt Lake City doesn't have anything good, and Houston, be interesting with Houston because of Dallas. It's already there right away.
The Jazz are catching strays on this podcast. They don't have anything good. Gosh, the poor Jazz.
Shut up. All right. And then we talked about this a little bit as well, but a lot of people are upset because it looks like Indiana State will not make the tournament, the NCAA tournament. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will not make the tournament. So you and I have talked a little bit, not recently, but we've talked in the past about WKU and about some of these smaller conferences. And if you make it to the conference championship and you don't win, there's a good chance that you miss the tournament. You could be 24-1, 24-2. And if you are in Conference USA, you would presumably miss the tournament for maybe a Big Ten team who is 17-10. Now I know we talk about like quad one wins and all of that stuff. What are your thoughts on that moving forward? As far as, there's talk of the NCAA tournament expanding, but it's really interesting to see, how you sort this out, because it's a lot like those seventh and eighth place teams in the football playoffs. Like you're right there, but you're not right there, So what do you think about that?
I mean, it's the way to kind of think about it is, and the NCAA should and shouldn't think about it this way, is would you rather see Indiana State and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar too, I'm saying, or 18-12 Virginia, or a mid-level Big Ten team that finishes 10th in the Big Ten.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I'd rather have the mid-major in there than watch a Maryland team that gave up 3 weeks ago. Or just, right. Maryland, I think they're not in the tournament, but still, that's an example. Virginia or, Mississippi State or something like that for an SEC example, or Louisville. Oh, wait, sorry. No, not Louisville. Sorry. They did double their win total, though, from last year.
Well, they got 6?
8. I was more just giving an example of just as a
No,
record of whatever Virginia's record is. I don't even know what it is.
But yeah, no, I find it interesting, like teams that play in better conferences. And again, in the last 5-10 years, quad wins have become a real big thing that everyone talks about. Quad wins, quad 2, quad 3. But listen, upsets happen in the tournament. We've seen everything from a 16 upset 1, although that's only happened once. But twice. But the 12
Fairleigh Dickinson and UMBC.
You're right. But we've seen the 12 upset the 4. We've absolutely seen the 12 upset the 4.
13-4, yeah. 5-12-5, yeah.
Right. But we've seen some really crazy upsets in the tournament. And I'm just not a big fan of skipping out on the runner-up if they won 22, 23 games in a mid-major conference.
It's tough because you do get some of these who play, as I know on Kentucky Sports Radio, the show here in Kentucky, one of their co-hosts, Ryan Lemon, he always says they play Poop State.
Yep.
And at some point, you can't play, if of your 24 wins, 16 are against Poop State.
Right.
Like, that's where you see and I was just using Virginia, they're 22-9, but still the 18-12. Like, look, Wake Forest, we'll just use them as an example. The 20-12 Wake Forest, who has, of their 20 wins, maybe only 4 are against Poop State.
Right.
But then again, you also have to look into how much of that impact is that Poop State they are a bunch of Poop States in their conference. And how far do you just punish them just because their conference is trash?
Yep.
And those are the discussions that I know that the committee will have, and I'm really excited. Next week we get to dive all the way into the bracket and those teams that are left out or on the bubble or playing in the NIT and so on, because there's going to be a lot of really fun discussions, especially when we get like a round 2 matchup, Northwestern against Kentucky.
Yeah.
If it happens and it's close, we might have to pull the plug.
We're gonna have to figure out a way to get to that game. Mm-hmm. I know it.
Although I've only bought tickets to a Kentucky game in the NCAA tournament once, and I bought it for a second round game, and that was 2 years ago, and then they lost to St. Peter's in the first round.
Ah!
So I'm not sure I can buy myself NCAA tournament tickets again.
Let's hit the logos, my friend.
Logos. We can cue the music. And there it is. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Leroy's Logos, where logos Leroy and up and tell me what school it is. Leroy, you've been playing well recently. I've closed my logos tab. Where did it go? I was going to give you your total. You're over 4. You're 404 hitting here on the season.
I like it.
Now, are you ready for door number 1, 2, or 3? Leroy's just got to tell me what school it is and what's the theme.
3.
3. I thought you were trying a new strategy of not looking at it. It's like that's an interesting strategy.
No, I got a new email on my thing, and I was like glancing a look to see what it was. It was nothing important. There was a crash on I-55.
Door number 3.
Ooh.
It's a cool logo.
It is. All these basketball schools, man. Missouri Bronco Colts. I don't know. My heart was saying Missoula. That was the first thing that came to my head. It was like Missoula. I will go with I don't know, Montana State.
Montana State. That is incorrect. Did my buzzer sometimes sounds a little weird in my ears, and I don't particularly know as to why.
Actually,
I have
the
one
buzzer
more.
Was the only normal thing that sounded. Your music's all muffled and everything else is muffled.
Interesting.
The buzzer sounded great.
The music sounded fine in my ears. Weird. Paul is right that Wyoming has a similar logo, but this is McNeese State.
McNeese. Where's McNeese State at?
It is in St. Charles, Louisiana.
Cool. Because
One or two.
Because they have a lot of Cowboys in Louisiana.
They do, yes.
2.
I actually think they're called the Pokes. So.
Sure.
You said 2?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
This one like on the tip of your tongue or something?
No.
Have you seen this one?
No, I haven't. I don't know this at all. That's why I said, "Oh my goodness," because I don't.
I didn't know if that was an "oh my goodness," like I know this one.
No, it's an, "Oh my goodness," I don't know any of these.
If it makes you feel better, Forrest got it right.
I mean, yeah. John.
One of these days, John's gonna get it right. And
by complete accident too.
And see, the funny thing is I'll be able to put it up on the screen. It'll be like Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Yeah.
Because you won't like.
I would actually believe him.
Did you not know the first one, Forrest? I guess I might have stumped you then. That at least makes me feel good. So do you have a guess or no?
Hold on. I will go with. No, I got nothing. I couldn't even think of a good like S city.
That wouldn't have helped you. I don't believe that's a city. It's the Hatters of Stetson.
Yeah. If you gave me $1 million right now in a map of the United States, I'd be like,
you wouldn't have gotten it. Okay, the final one is a majestic puppy.
A beautiful puppy. A very nice bulldog.
There you go. I will agree with you. It is the Bulldogs. That narrows it down to only, I think, 25 schools.
I'm irritated because like the other two all were like cowboy themes, and like this isn't a cowboy, so I thought I had a theme, and now I don't. Mm-hmm. So good job on ruining that, you jerk. Drake.
Drake is incorrect. Drake is incorrect. That is... John got it right. Samford Bulldogs. Although I think he copied off of Forrest. That it is Samford. The Samford Bulldogs. Leroy, what is the theme? Samford, Stetson, and McNeese State. Samford.
They're all teams that won their conference tournament.
And what's can you specify a little bit more?
In women's basketball.
Can you specify a little differently?
I okay.
Close. You're so close.
Who have white jerseys? What were you asking for?
Men's conference champions in basketball. These are all teams that are dancing in the NCAA tournament.
I said women's.
You did. Half a point. I'll give you half a point. Women's. These are all teams that are in the NCAA tournament right now that have all qualified. So McNeese State did it earlier. Samford did it, I think, on Monday, and Stetson, first ever appearance too for them.
Cool, very cool.
On doing it. Forrest is the GOAT.
Dude, those guys get so excited when you see them when they get their very first tournament bids. They get so excited too. And I don't blame them. It's a huge accomplishment.
Oh yeah. Or even the schools that haven't. Like I saw earlier today that in women's basketball, I think it was Eastern Washington has made it for the first time in like 64 years. Like that's cool. Those are the really cool ones that get the opportunity to do that. Oh my goodness, it is really big. Time for a little bit of play clock segment where we get 40 seconds. Leroy, would you like to ask or answer?
I will go ahead and ask first. I want your Mount Rushmore of board games.
You're stealing my category of board games.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I honestly couldn't even tell you the last time I played a board game. We always liked the game Sorry growing up. So what's funny is Sorry, I have a board behind me that is on the bookshelf that is behind me there. And when I bought it, it didn't have the playing cards in it. So I literally bought out of the box, no playing cards. So it was like a defective set, and it was only like $5, so I didn't go back and do it. But I'll throw. I like Battleship.
Yeah.
Treble.
Okay.
And
I feel like Trouble and Sorry are the same game, but that's fine.
Well, this is my list. And how about Monopoly? I don't know. Now I'm trying to think of board games because it's been so long. Oh, Risk instead of Monopoly. There you go. Ooh, I do like Trivial Pursuit. I guess, and see, Uno doesn't classify in that, or I would put Uno in there. See, Cards Against Humanity is not a board game.
No. Doesn't have a board to play on.
Correct.
Although I will say Cards Against Humanity is a fantastic game.
That's another thing I have on my shelf over there. I've got a lot of random crap on that shelf, and that is one of those things.
His toys.
Yeah, something like that. See, I've got my cozy coop back there. See it? It's great.
I do.
Leroy, I told you I'd ask you this question about once every month. What are the Bears going to do with the number 1 pick?
I still this week. I still think I think they trade it. I think they trade it. They're going to try to get something closer to draft day. Ian Rappaport is reporting that they're going to wait till closer to draft day to trade it, but I don't know. There's not too many options left. What we got? The Vikings. We got the Raiders, but like it's looking now like he might be a backup quarterback. But man, I am absolutely confused on this as far as what they're going to do. Somebody even posted a whole article, and I know you and I have talked about this before about drafting or having both quarterbacks, which will be a disaster if they do that. But at this point, right now, I say they trade him.
Paul says that they should draft him after they trade Fields to the Raiders. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm
interested to see. It's one of the main questions of the offseason. Okay.
You ready? Is Trevor Bauer being blackballed by MLB?
I'm being honest. I do not care. Like, he's just somebody that I just do not care about. He won a Cy Young for the Reds. I just hate the people that are so on Team Trevor Bauer that it's almost annoying. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, is he being blackballed? I don't know. I mean, because if we're being honest, Trevor Bauer's kind of a POS. Like,
yes, but there's plenty of baseball players that are POSs that are in the game.
I'm not disagreeing, but if I'm being honest, he's just somebody I don't care about. Like,
I mean, Aroldis Chapman posted a video of himself today grabbing his mom's boob. Okay, so let's be real here. There's
his mom. Like,
what?
Everyone thinks it's his mom, right? It's not officially his mom.
No. Like, there's been multiple sources that have come out that have said that that's his mom.
I don't think he has a wife, John. That's part of the reason why he's not even here. Yeah, and I do agree that we do have double standards, like the fact that Marcell Ozuna is still in the game, and I will never
because all those accusations fell through. Like, look, I'm kind of with you on this one. Like, I'm not a big Trevor Bauer fan, but like, I don't know. I just feel like we've let players go that have done way worse than had rough sex with somebody. And listen, again, I'm not getting into all of this as far as what's going on, but there's been plenty of evidence that woman set him up. There's plenty of evidence out there that she set him up. And that's just something that I'm just not thrilled about.
I'm going to ask the next question before we go down this hole anymore. This is not a BDSM podcast, Leroy. We've had you post fingers on here.
No, that wasn't my intention. I'm just saying.
So the Reds had bad news that happened, I guess it was late last week, where their top prospect and their starting third baseman, Noelvi Marte, was suspended 80 games.
I forgot I was going to give you credit for that.
What's very interesting about this, John. What's very interesting about this, though, is, his suspension starts on opening day and goes until the end of June. But with that suspension, he's not allowed to play in the playoffs should the Reds make it. Should that be the rule, even though his suspension will have ended months prior to?
I don't. No, I don't think so. I mean, because let's face it, you use the substance to try to get ahead of everybody else. And listen, I don't, we talk about it because he's a Reds player, right? But if he played for like the Oakland Athletics or any like normal team, I'm not a fan of it, and I'm going to say no on this one because it's not right. Like the little guy in the back of my head's like, no.
And see, it was one of those that when the post came through, I was like, that's a rule?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, and that's why I immediately wrote it down, because I was like, I need to ask this to people who are not Reds fans, because I was trying to take myself out from being a Reds fan. Now, if he would have gotten suspended September 1st, yeah, without question, he should be suspended for the playoffs. Without question. But the fact is that it's like he is eligible to come back. I think it's like June the 28th.
Yep.
Or something like that. Like that's July, August, September, 3 months until now. Look, listen, Reds might not make the playoffs, so it might not be a reason anyways. But it's just interesting to me. But apparently, if he appeals and it gets less than 60 games, he can play in the playoffs. So I guess it has to be, if it's at least 61 games or more, it's no playoffs. And I just found it interesting.
Did it ever get revealed, like was this an accident? Was he legit trying to?
From what I understand is the drug he used, and I fully admit I'm reading this, I think, off of something, is that it has to be injected. Like you can't. So then the people were like, okay, can you accidentally inject something? But no,
it fell and it landed right in my arm, man.
But I do know, I think he had like a hamstring injury over winter. And a lot of these,
I just know that sometimes those guys are like, hey, I didn't know that was, I'll serve my suspension because I didn't know that was.
And I don't know. I don't know. But I just, when I heard the playoff thing, I was, And John's right. So he gets an extra suspension just because of the playoffs, basically. And that's super weird. And that's what I'd be really interested in, is like if it would be.
I got out of my army punishment early because I deployed, and they were like, "Look, we feel bad on you because you have to deploy, so we're just gonna end your punishment early."
It's punishment enough.
Going to Afghanistan is punishment enough.
But what I'd be really interested in is, let's say it was Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
Would this rule change then?
Yeah, and that's just it, right? We already know that Fernando Tatis, right?
Ohtani. Now I know Ohtani probably would never do this, but some of these elite players, and Marte being a rookie who has played, I don't know, 25 games in his career or so on.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that. That's why I wanted to make sure that I brought it up, because I just find it very interesting.
And again, yeah, I tend to think that's fine. I tend to think, it's interesting because I see both sides in this story.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I brought it up to you. Do you have drivers?
I do. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
You want 1, 2, or 3?
We'll go reverse order tonight.
All right.
And this is where I got to guess if it's a Formula One, an Indy, or a NASCAR. Paul, he can't do Darrell Waltrip. I'll know him. Even though our views are a little down today, Leroy. So we've got 3 people watching right now. I know John won, John's won, Paul's won. The third one, comment. Let us know who you are. I'd like to put a face to the name. Maybe you're somebody new who's never joined us.
It might be Christy.
Why isn't she commenting?
I don't know.
Okay, this guy is. I don't know who that is. Is this a name I'll recognize?
No.
Indy.
Yes, that's Pietro Fittipaldi. He is an absolute.
Bless you.
Yeah, thank you. IndyCar driver. All right, we'll go with number 2.
Is he good?
Yeah, he's not too bad for a IndyCar driver. Yeah.
That's a weird looking SOB. Even though the other guy that you skipped over is even weirder looking. Go to that other guy just really quick, and
Really
then
quick,
we'll come back to this.
really
Just like, yeah, what is up with homeboy? My goodness. Okay. My goodness. How old is he?
Oh, in that picture, I think he's in his 70s or 80s.
So is he dead?
No, he's still alive, but just barely, man.
So he's no longer active.
Correct.
F1 Indy. This guy's F1, and then homeboy's he's an IndyCar driver.
So you actually get a real free pass today because all 3 of these guys have done both IndyCar and F1. This guy, Christian Fittipaldi, has done all 3, NASCAR, F1, and Indy. And this is the grandfather, Emerson Fittipaldi, who has also done F1, IndyCar.
So
and
it's 3 generations.
It's 3 generations. Yeah.
What's grandson look like?
So this is grandpa, son, and then grandson.
Okay, I can kind of see. Yeah. Good old poor grandson. Cool? He's got a lot to look forward to then.
Yeah, I know, right? Look at that nose. My goodness, that is a honker.
Poor guy. Poor guy. Speaking of NASCAR, we can update our NASCAR standings. I don't like this game. In first place is Tyler with 102 points. In second place is you, Leroy, with 91 points. In third place is Paul with 44. In fourth place, only doing it once, is Chase with 37. John is behind him at 33, and then I have 21. So, Paul, you actually tied with Tyler last week of winning. You both pulled away 42 points. In doing that, they are at Bristol this week. And I guess to those who are not in the show thread, and if you go back and watch this, if you want to drop in a comment, you can. But it's got to be obviously by race time on Sunday. So one thing I was bringing up to you is, Leroy, and I wanted to discuss this with you. Should we make a rule that you can't, like, pick a guy X amount of times in a row?
Yes.
3?
3.
I think that's fair. Because I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, I could just pick the guy who's gets 5th every single week. You know, like, so how about let's do that you can't pick a guy 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. So John is going to go with Joey Logano again.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney.
Okay. And I am going to go with Bubba Wallace this week.
Interesting. Paul, if you'd have a pick, you can drop that in there. Oh, we now have only 2 viewers. I guess the third person didn't like me calling them out. either that or Paul is left or Christy fell asleep, which is
very, very possible.
Yes, because I picked Logano last week and he finished like 39th. And there were 38 cars.
I'm not picking him, but if Austin Dillon wins this week, I'm just going to not play again. So Austin Dillon is like I should have gone with him instead pick.
So Paul's going with Kyle Larson. So you've got Bubba Wallace. I've got Ryan Blaney. Paul's got Larson. John's got Logano. Tyler and Chase, if you go back and watch this. you could do it. Or Leroy, if you want to reach out to Tyler directly, because I think Tyler usually watches on YouTube, so those comments don't pop up.
Oh, Tyler just messaged me, and he said to go with Austin Dillon.
All righty. So he's going with Austin Dillon. And Chase, if you go back and watch this, you can either text me your answer or whatever. Or if somebody else, if you haven't played in this and you want to add in, I mean, you can. I mean, listen, like I said, Chase did it 1 week and is in third place. So it can be something that you can do.
It's so early in the season that you really can do whatever you want to do it. And by the way, IndyCar race was super boring this week. It was the opening weekend. Joseph Newgarden led 92 out of 100 laps. 92 out of 100 laps and just cruised to a victory. So easy race for him to win to get things started off. That's my racing coverage.
Is there a certain thing as a exciting IndyCar race?
Yes. Piss off. Scott Dixon was inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame, which I thought was really cool as well.
I'm looking here to see if there aren't any other breaking news as far as savings. Jadeveon Clowney is going to visit the Panthers on Thursday. The Browns have signed tight end Giovanni Ricci. You're a big Giovanni Ricci guy. I know that, Leroy. Big one. Ravens have re-signed Brent Urban. I don't know who that is. But yeah, all kinds of interesting moves coming through here on free agency. I know that the past 2 days I've not been as productive at work as I probably should have been because I enjoy this stuff. It's just like, oh my gosh, we got up to 5. Our views have been a little bit down. Past couple of weeks we've been high, Leroy. I guess people don't like free agency talk. But guess what? Our shows, we're allowed to talk about what we want to.
That's right. That's right.
Do you have anything else?
The Illinois High School Association had their games on Thursday and Friday starting at like 10 a.m. Then sat there and complained openly that attendance was down. Well, stop scheduling basketball games on Friday morning at 10:30 in the morning.
Yep, the girls' state tournament opened up today, first game at 11.
I don't understand. Listen, I get where you need to get all of them in. Look, there's 5 classes. I get you got to get all those games in. But come on, Friday morning at 10 a.m., stop it. That's awful. So I don't know what the answer is, but it's not what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing on the Illinois State high school basketball.
When do you guys do yours?
The state tournament began today in girls basketball. They played it at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
11. It was 11, 1:30, and then 6 and 8:30 was tonight in the games for girls, and then the same times tomorrow. And so now the big controversy in Kentucky is that on Saturday they have the 2 semifinal games at like 11 and 1:30, and then the championship is at 7. So to win the championship, you have to win twice in one day. And that's a big controversy.
Oh, yeah.
Because theoretically, the bottom team has to win a game Thursday, Friday, and then 2 on Saturday to be the champion. So they have to win 4 games in 3 days.
I don't like that. I know I'm probably in the minority on that one, but
that's how it was for a long time. And then about 10 years ago, they switched and they put the championship on Sunday, or they moved the days back and played the championship on Saturday or something like that.
I'm just not a big fan of punishing the number 4 seed after
it's not seeded.
Oh, you guys don't do seeds?
No, it's completely a blind draw. Which that's a discussion for another show if you want to get people riled up. Personally, I love the blind draw just because that's one of the things that's always been done that way, and I kind of enjoy you never know what you're gonna get.
By the way, I didn't get a chance to say it. Lincoln girls basketball won every single game. I don't know if I told you that they finished the season undefeated, and 3 out of the 5 starters were named All-State.
That checks out.
So, and then Chloe Froby was named to Max Prep's Miss Illinois, and then she's a finalist for regular IHSA Miss Illinois as well. So, dominant team. They scored 1,500 more points than they gave up.
That's usually a recipe for success.
Just
That's usually a
straight
recipe
up.
for success.
And I can't wait till all of them graduate. I tell you what.
We'll be back next week. NCAA tournament preview.
Can't
Breakdown.
wait. Can't wait.
And who knows what other.
Cannot wait. Let's go.
We'll have a lot of fun when it comes to that. So we'll see you next week on next week's edition. I mean, did you have anything else? I didn't want to just cut it off by.
That was it, man. Appreciate everyone for watching and hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you all next week.